So this is wild. Watch Jerome Powell make excuses of why they're stealing 2% of your money. It's not 2%, it's 9%. But they tell you 2% is the target so that you don't throw them out of government and riot in the streets. Let's check this out.
For the general public, for those working families and people, why 2%? Why is getting it to 2% so important?
So that has become the globally agreed, essentially all major central banks target 2% inflation in one form or another.
How does that help my Nevada families? How does that help people in Nevada?
I'll tell you how it's...
All right. So here he goes into explaining exactly why. She's asking a very valid question. Why are you essentially, she's wording it nicer than I would, but why are you targeting a 2% theft rate on all the currency holders of the American dollar? Why is that your target? And now let's listen to his explanation, because he's going to tell you why they steal your money with a straight face.
Does. And it's I guess it's obviously not it's not obvious how that is, but 2%.
No, it's not obvious how that is. You know why? Because they're stealing your money, and if they tell you, if they use real words and say we are printing more of the thing that you hold and stealing and targeting a theft rate of 2%, which by the way, that's not actually what they're targeting. That's just what they tell people, because he does make a valid point that it changes the way that people handle and use money based on the expected inflation. But the real debasement rate of the currency is actually closer to 9% and going higher, because it's only math, and we're in a global debt crisis, and there is no way they print less money than previously. Let's keep watching.
Inflation, to have people believe that inflation is going to go back to 2% really anchors inflation there, because the evidence is the modern belief.
Okay, that's bullshit. The belief of people that inflation is 2% does not mean that inflation stays at 2%. That's why they're constantly playing with numbers and trying to control the world by adjusting federal funds rates so that the cost of money, essentially, they're manipulating the cost of money, trying to convince people that the inflation rate's 2%. But trust me, by no means is the expectation of 2% by the public, because they tell the public that. First of all, a lot of the public is smarter. I was going to say most, definitely not most. A lot of people are being deceived and have no clue what's happening here. Let's continue, but that's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie.
Is that people's expectations about inflation actually have an effect on inflation. If you expect inflation to go up 5%, then it will. If everyone kind of expects that, because that's what businesses and households will be expecting, and it'll kind of happen because they
I can't believe he says this with a safe face. Hey, it's just going to happen. No, it's tied to how much money is in the system chasing finite amounts of resources, goods and services. It's not just expectations. Okay, that's just you trying to play with people's minds, people's psychology, and of course play with the numbers themselves and the interest rate. Okay, so there you have it. Like, he's basically telling you that the central banks all manipulate the rate of inflation, or the rate of targeted inflation that they're telling people. The problem is, and they put out things like what I call the CPI, which is the Consumer Pricing Index, which is just a basket of goods that they try to take and continuously manipulate to represent the fact to the public that inflation is somewhere around 2%. It hasn't been 2% for quite a long time, but they try to use that to justify that it's 2%. Okay, so they're literally stealing your money. The central bankers, he told you that, just doesn't say it in these words. And this is his explanation on why, which is complete bullshit. But they have to say that, because if they told you the truth, the game would be up. You would understand, and most people would understand, that most of the investments that they think getting an 8-9% return are actually, at best, breaking even, not gaining them more purchasing power, at best protecting their purchasing power, and most of the time, not even doing that. Okay, most of the stock market has not been, even the stock market's at an all-time high. Most of the stock market has not come close to that rate of return. Mag 7 is carrying a lot of the indexes. Mag 7 has outperformed, historically has outperformed since 2020, the rate of debasement. Tech stocks, like Mag 7, which basically all tech stocks, have outperformed that. The rest of the stock market as a whole is losing its investors' purchasing power. Fixed income, forget about it. Fixed income is getting destroyed. Bonds have been getting destroyed. especially when you're looking at the rate of the debasement of the currency. So he's lying to you. Pay attention, be smarter. This is why I talk about this stuff all the time. And all roads eventually lead to them printing, not even eventually, it's coming faster than most realize, more and more money, debasing the currency faster and faster because we're in a debt crisis. They have no other way. There is no other way out. That's why you saw Trump and Elon fighting earlier this year. Despite their best efforts to save money, to cut the budget, it's not feasibly, economically viable for a whole number of reasons, which is for a different video. But be smarter. Guess what? Bitcoin has no storage fees. It's a global asset. It's actually the safest asset that you could possibly invest in, but you need to understand it because most people don't understand it well enough to say that or believe that. But it is true. When you actually do, when you spend the thousands of hours to understand it, that Bitcoin is appreciating at a rate way higher than this, but expected to appreciate it for at least the next decade at 40 to 60%. So be smarter. This is why I'm so persistent on talking about Bitcoin, is because it's the best solution anyone has ever come up with to solve this problem of money and currency. It's even better than when we were using straight gold. It's even better than when we were using any other form of currency in the history of humanity. Okay, it is a better digital form of money in a digital world. So, but pay attention. You can find other investments that outpace this, but I guarantee you they're not going to be as simple as the simplicity of literally dollar cost averaging in Bitcoin. And this is why I don't shut the about Bitcoin. Pardon my language.